Good morning. My name is Barrett Rice. I grew up in the 5th and the 9th wards in Fresno. I don't think those wards exist anymore. In my late teenage years and early 20s, my family attended church in this chapel where you guys are all sitting. Jan Perkins was our bishop. I'm so sorry that I can't be there today in person. I tried everything I could to make it work, but because I'm traveling today, I was unable to make it happen. I'm planning to listen via Zoom, though, and I'm really grateful to be able to participate remotely. Jeff was one of my best friends from the age of about 13 or 14 until I left to serve a mission for the LDS Church when I was 19. A couple of years ago, I had a conversation with another of our friends, Paul Stark, where we tried to describe Jeff. Who was he? What was he like? And one of the things that we said was that if we described Jeff accurately, people who didn't know him would think that we were lying because he's too much. He can't be real. He was bigger than life when he was younger. And if he was a character in a movie, the director might suggest that we tone him down just a little bit to make him more realistic. But Jeff was definitely real, and he was so much of so many things that sometimes I've wondered if some of my memories of him can possibly be true. Jeff had limitless confidence during the time that we were friends. He was much better looking than I was, and he definitely knew it. And he used to walk into an LDS stake dance or a party and scan the floor for a girl that he wanted to hit on. And this was almost always a girl that he'd never even met. He would point her out and immediately walk up to her, confident that he could win her over. He didn't care who she was. He didn't even care if she had a boyfriend. I honestly don't think he would have cared if her boyfriend was standing right next to her at that exact moment. He would proceed to approach the girl he had his eye on and immediately make her laugh and cringe and blush, sometimes all within a minute or two. Usually it wasn't long before she was interested and focused on him for the rest of the night. I was insanely jealous. I remember heading out to a dance in Utah where we knew no one, on one of our 3 summer trips that we took to Salt Lake City area when we were in high school. I passed by the bathroom and saw him at the sink brushing his teeth, and I told him that we were going to leave in just a couple minutes. He replied, "Dude, I'm going to be making out with someone in an hour or so. I need to brush my teeth." His confidence was just unparalleled. And I apologize for saying this in church, but he was right about what he was going to be doing later that night. That same confidence was just as overwhelming to guys, especially guys who wanted to pick a fight with him. One of the most legendary stories about Jeff, one that my friends and I have repeated many, many times, was in the cafeteria at Bullard High School. We were sitting on one of the long cafeteria tables with 100 other high school kids eating bad cafeteria pizza. And a guy 2 tables over started to say something about Jeff. I don't remember I don't know if I even heard what he said at the time. I definitely don't remember. But Jeff got wind of this and he yelled across to this other guy across the sea of teenagers, "Hey, loser, are you talking about me?" And the guy said to Jeff, "Loser, you want to come over here and say that to my face?" And this next part is one of those scenes that sounds made up, but I was there and it happened. Jeff stood up and he walked on top of the table that we were sitting at, stepping over trays of food. And then he stepped down on the ground between the 2 tables. And finally, he stepped on top of the table that this unfortunate guy was sitting at. And Jeff stood on top of the table, his feet literally straddling the meal that his adversary was eating. And he squatted down over the food and put his face down about 6 inches from this poor guy and said, "You're a loser." Man, that guy backed down so fast you would have thought he saw a ghost. And that's how Jeff was. Life was a kind of a game for him, I think. I don't know if he experienced fear. He most likely did. I mean, I'm talking about when he was younger. I don't know if he experienced fear, but he rarely showed it. And this was what I loved about him. I was from a button-down home where the Muppets and Little House on the Prairie were on TV every evening. And Jeff just had an energy and a confidence that I had never seen before. Rules were made to be broken with Jeff, and that made him a blast to hang out with. It won't be a surprise to most of you to hear that his energy did get him into trouble sometimes. I remember one summer, Jeff bought records, clothing, and food for me and another of our friends, Lance Emery. He bought us pretty much anything we wanted. We didn't ask questions about where the money was coming from. We were just glad to be acquainted with such a generous and apparently rich person. Well, it turned out that he had stolen his parents' credit card and was treating us to their money. We honestly had no idea. Ina, I know you're listening, and I promise I had no idea. When we found out what he was doing, though, I remember that I thought, oh no, this is bad. I don't know how much the bill was that Tom and Ina were faced with at the end of that month, but I am certain it wasn't small. But when Jeff was at his best, which was often, he was among my closest confidants of my life when I was that age. He's the person I talked to about all the sensitive topics that accompany going through adolescence. He was understanding, he was always non-judgmental, and he was intensely honest. He told me when I was wrong without hesitation. I fondly remember chatting with him in the night when I stayed over at his house. I also remember him climbing up on my roof and tapping on my second-story bedroom window at night. I would let him in and we would talk about girls and music and comic books and school for hours. Then he would climb out the window again back into the dark and disappear. Jeff's intensity and his fearlessness occasionally resulted in genuine heroism. When he witnessed a woman whose throat was cut during a robbery in San Francisco, Jeff approached her and used his bare hands to apply pressure to her neck while emergency services were called. This was during the AIDS crisis. And my understanding is, although I've never seen it myself, my understanding from reputable sources is that he was credited with saving her life in the newspaper the next day. Jeff was a lot of things. He was a great musician. He was an athlete who was good at every sport he tried. He was a rule breaker. He was a rebel. He was a funny and brilliant guy at the same time as he was mischievous and daring and at times stupid. I loved him and I love him still. And I know he was in pain for several years at the end of his life. And I'm so sad to know that. I'm so sorry to know that. I want to remember the young daredevil who was my friend, not the man with such serious health problems. I didn't talk to Jeff a lot in the last several years of his life. And so I don't know what he believed about death or about eternity, but I know what I believe. And I believe that he's free now. I believe he's laughing with his dad and his friend, Chris Rozier. I hope to see him again. There will never be another Jeff Whitt. So goodbye, my friend, and be at peace. And I hope to see you soon. Ina and Kim, I love you two, you two as well. And I'm really so sorry that you're going through this. And I appreciate you letting me participate in this way. I wish all of you the very best. Thank you.